Manani, and welcome to another episode of Cobbs Corner. If this is your first time listening, welcome, and to my returning listeners, welcome back. Before I officially start this episode, I would like to first wish each and every one of you a very, very happy new year. Thank you for, 2023 was the first official full year of Cobbs Corner, like full year, January to December. 2023 was the very first full year. So I thank you to each and every one of my listeners. 2023 was great. 2024, we're coming back even harder. 2024 is going to be a great year. We are going to do everything in our power to make 2024 even better than 2023. So I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for each and every one of you. That being said, this is the 70th episode of Cobbs Corner, and one of the goals for 2024 is to get this podcast up to 100 episodes. We will hit 100. I'm saying it right now. Episode 70, we are going to hit 100 episodes before the end of 2024. We will. All right. So, thank you everyone for listening, and, to my new listeners, welcome. 70th episode, we are continuing the American Film Institute's Top 100 Greatest Films of All Time series that I started last year. If you have not yet checked out any of the other episodes that I've done on other movies on the AFI's Top 100 list, be sure to go back and listen to those as soon as you're finished with today's episode. The next film on the list is Star Wars. Yes, we are reviewing Star Wars. For those of you who have been listening to this podcast for a minute, you'd know that initially in my podcast description, I said that Cobbs Corner was primarily focused on Marvel, DC, and Star Wars. And looking back, I don't even think I really reviewed any Marvel content, properly reviewed any Marvel movies last year, maybe one or two. And it's funny, last year I said I was going to cover Star Wars content, and I've covered some Star Wars content. I talked about the Ahsoka series. I think I talked about Mandalorian Season 3, but I've never actually reviewed a Star Wars movie, and how perfect that with the American Film Institute's the AFI Top 100, Star Wars is the next movie on the list. So now I have an opportunity to finally be inclusive of my Star Wars fan base that listens to Cobbs Corner. So yeah, we are going to be reviewing Star Wars. This is number 12 on the last of the AFI's Top 100. This is number 13. It's number 13. Last episode I did was number 11, City Lights. I skipped The Searchers. The Searchers from 1956. I'll be going back to that movie at a later time. So number 13 is Star Wars. So, on with the show. Introduction. Luke Skywalker joins forces with a Jedi Knight, a cocky pilot, a Wookiee, and 2 droids to save the galaxy from the Empire's world-destroying battle station, while also attempting to rescue Princess Leia from the mysterious Darth Vader. Storyline. A young farmer named Luke joins a mission to rescue Princess Leia from the clutches of the evil Darth Vader. With the help of a wise old mentor named Obi-Wan Kenobi, a smuggler named Han Solo, and a droid duo R2-D2 and C-3PO, they set out on an adventure across galaxies to deliver secret plans that could save the galaxy. They face thrilling battles and meet strange creatures, all while striving to defeat the oppressive Empire and its planet-destroying weapon. As they work together, Luke discovers his own hidden potential and learns about the power of the Force. The movie is a tale of heroes, villains, and the struggle between good and evil in a faraway galaxy. This storyline is provided to us from Evan Almindo via IMDb. Shout out to you. The movie is written and directed by George Lucas and stars Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford, alongside the late Carrie Fisher. Before I actually go into this episode, I would like to just have a spoiler warning, not just for Star Wars, but maybe also some spoilers for other Star Wars projects. If you are not 100% up to date on at least the 9 Star Wars movies, the 9 Star Wars episodes that have been made, then spoiler warning, you have been warned. So let's go to Cobbs Corner. So this is Star Wars Episode 4. This is the very first Star Wars movie that was made. It was made 1977, so almost 50 years ago. And Episode 4, picks up with Princess Leia's cruisers being attacked by the Imperials. There's the Rebel Alliance, and the Empire. The Empire, they're essentially the bad guys. They're the imperialistic regime, and then the Rebel Alliance, they're like the freedom fighters fighting for, freedom in the galaxy. And there's plans. The plans for the Death Star, which is a weapon that the Empire has created that has the ability to wipe out an entire planet. So the plans to destroy, the Death Star plans, and therefore the Rebels' chance at destroying this planet-killing weapon are being held by Princess Leia, and she puts them into a droid, R2-D2, who then ends up leaving the ship in an escape pod and ends up making it peacefully to Tatooine. Now, Tatooine is a planet that is essentially it's kind of like the Wild Wild West. I've heard that George Lucas drew inspiration from Kurosawa films, like from samurai films like Magnificent Seven and the Samurai trilogy, as well as samurai films like Seven Samurai. My bad. Magnificent Seven is an American adaptation of Seven Samurai, but there's definitely a lot of like Western sort of like lawlessness aspects of Tatooine. Tatooine is literally a desert planet, and we find out in later Star Wars projects that Tatooine is more of a lawless land. There's no real like government. There's like all these crime syndicates and like warlords, and so the droids are then picked up by Jawas, who are pretty much like scavengers, like kind of like scavengers. Like they pick up like droids and little trinkets in their transports, and then they sell them to farmers, they sell them to the residents. And then they sell C-3PO, who is a protocol droid. They sell him along with R2-D2 to Luke Skywalker, who's a farm boy on Tatooine, living with his Uncle Owen and his Aunt Beru. Luke Skywalker, they sell the two droids to Luke Skywalker, and Luke finds out that they are actually a part of the Rebel Alliance, so they're droids that have been maybe seen some action, maybe been in a few battles, and we get the sense that Luke does not like the Empire at all, and really, Luke wants to be doing more. He wants to get off of Tatooine. He desires more than Uncle is kind of telling him to do. I've seen this movie a million times. The first time I saw this movie, I was 10, and this is why I love watching and rewatching movies, guys. I mean, this movie's before my time, and I want to hear from anybody listening who saw this movie in theaters in 1977. Have at it in the comments. I want to know what it was like. But we see how Luke, he has this desire to leave Tatooine. There's even an iconic scene where we see him like standing at kind of like the top of some like rock structure, and he's looking off into the sky, and we see the two suns. Tatooine, they have like the twin suns. It's not like planet Earth. See, on Earth we have the moon and we have the sun, but on Tatooine they have two suns. So seeing Luke look off into the stars and dream of doing more, dream of getting out there and like seeing the galaxy and getting off of Tatooine. You get the fact that he really does not like Tatooine, at all. And chronologically, now again, I'm getting into a bit of the Star Wars canon. Chronologically, this movie takes place in the year 0 BBY, the year of the Battle of Yavin, and Anakin, I think, is about 19 years old. He's about 19 years old at this time, at the time of this movie, and so he's still a young man, and he just has this desire, like, I want to be doing more. His uncle says, I need you here for the harvest, you can't go to the academy, and you can waste time with your friends later once your chores are done. And so Luke realizes that R2-D2 is holding a message for someone named Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now when Luke tells this to his uncle kind of just grunts in, like, as a way of, like, kind of dismissing his nephew, and saying how, like, Ben Kenobi is just an old wizard. He's just an old man. He's crazy, because Luke does know somebody named Ben Kenobi, but he doesn't know an Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then there's a scene where Luke tells his uncle, like, I really want to go to the academy. I want to stay on for just one more season. I want to go to the academy and this and that. And then his uncle tells him no. And then that's the scene where he kind of just walks off and then stares off into the sunset. He goes back to his shop, and he realizes that R2-D2 has wandered off. R2-D2 with this message for Obi-Wan Kenobi from Princess Leia, who they don't know it yet, but the two of them are actually fraternal twins. Yep. And so R2-D2 just kind of runs off into, like, the desert, to go find Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then Luke and C-3PO the next morning, because it was too dangerous with all the sand people around, so Luke says we'll have to wait till morning. Next morning, they are riding in their speeder, and they encounter a group of Tusken Raiders, or sand people, the Tusken Raiders, who are frequently just traveling throughout the Junlin Wastes, the Junlin Waste area, and they pretty much just kind of take from everyone, I guess. I guess maybe you could say they were a bit like Rough Riders. For those of you who are familiar with, like, the American West, Rough Riders were essentially people who just kind of rode through town, or rode through, like, campsites, and just, like, would beat people up, and they would just, like, pillage. And so yeah, that's kind of the Tusken Raiders, or Sand People, as they're referred to. And after a brief encounter with the Tusken Raiders, Luke is knocked unconscious. Obi-Wan scares off the Ben Kenobi scares off the Tusken Raiders. He goes over to Luke, and then he sees R2-D2 hiding behind some rocks. He says the iconic, "Hello there." Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben Kenobi, played by the late Sir Alec Guinness, God rest his soul. And Luke finally wakes up. He comes to, and he says, like, Ben, this droid is looking for someone named Obi-Wan, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. To which Ben Kenobi says, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Well, that's a name I have not heard in a long time. A long time. And then Luke asks him, like, do you know him? Like, is he still alive? It's like, oh no, he's not dead. Not yet. It's like, well, do you know him? Of course I know him. He's me. I haven't gone by the name Obi-Wan since before you were born. So they go and they grab R2-D2 and C-3PO. They go back to Obi-Wan's house, where Obi-Wan tells Luke how his father, Anakin Skywalker, was a Jedi who fought alongside Obi-Wan, and Anakin Skywalker was a student of Obi-Wan's back during the Clone Wars, during the Old Republic, and how he was seduced by the dark side. He doesn't tell him initially that his father is Darth Vader. That comes in Empire Strikes Back. But he tells him how, Vader was seduced by the dark side. He betrayed and murdered your father. He gives him his father's lightsaber. And R2-D2 finally shows Obi-Wan Kenobi the full message. Shows Ben Kenobi. I'm probably going to use Obi-Wan and Ben interchangeably throughout the rest of this episode. And shows Obi-Wan the full message of Princess Leia saying, like, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. Her adopted father, who we later find out is Bail Organa. Bail Organa, who shows up in, who you might have seen in Rogue One and maybe in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series 2 years ago. Years ago, you served my father in the Clone Wars, and now we are asking for your help. You know, there are the plans to destroy the Death Star are in this R2 unit, and this needs to get to my father on Alderaan. This is our most desperate hour. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You are my only hope. And so then Obi-Wan says how, you know, Luke is going to have to come with him to Alderaan if he's going to train to become a Jedi like his father. And then Luke initially, well, here's kind of like where it flips. You see before, you know, Luke wanted to leave. He wanted to get out of Tatooine. But now he's kind of like, and Obi-Wan kind of calls him out on this and says, you know, like, that's your uncle talking. Luke says how, like, Alderaan, I'm not going to Alderaan. You know, I have work to do at home, and I got this, that, and the other thing going on at home. I got to take care of my aunt and my uncle, and, you know, and then Obi-Wan says, you know, that's your uncle talking, and you must do what you feel is right, of course. And then as they're driving in Luke's speeder, Luke sees a Jawa transport that has been attacked, and probably the funniest line in this movie, okay, is when Obi-Wan says, "These blast points are too accurate for stormtroopers." Too accurate for stormtroopers. All the Star Wars fans know, all the real Star Wars fans know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? Too accurate for too accurate for sand people. Like, only stormtroopers are this precise. I'm like, oh, God. That line gets me every time. All the real Star Wars fans, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. And then they actually... And then Luke realizes that if the Empire was able to trace the droids back to the Jawas, then they would have traced them back to the people that they sold them to, which would have brought them back home. Luke, in a panic, hops in a speeder and rides back to his house, only to find his aunt and uncle murdered. But his aunt and uncle already dead. Luke drives back to, very kind of somber moment. Luke drives back to the transport with Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan tells him, there's nothing you could have done. If you were at home, you would have been dead alongside them. Luke says, there's nothing left for me here. I want to go with you to Alderaan. I want to train to become a Jedi like my father before me. So Luke finally says, you know, I'm in this. I'm in this fight now. Like, not just to avenge the death of my aunt and uncle, but, you know, I'm in this to go and explore the galaxy and join the fight. I'm tired of the Empire. The Empire has taken my aunt and uncle away from me. They've, you know, taken my family away. They've, you know, all this other stuff. So they go to Mos Eisley Spaceport. And another one of my favorite scenes, they get stopped by a group of stormtroopers asking them to see their license, and then Obi-Wan says, like, you don't need to see their license. It's like, we don't need to see their license. These aren't the droids you're looking for. These aren't the droids you're looking for. He can go about his business. He can go about his business. Move along. Move along. Move along. Jedi mind tricks. Gets me every time. And they go to the cantina. You know, the iconic cantina scene where they run into Han Solo, who's kind of a bounty hunter, you know, smuggler. Han Solo, and his partner Chewbacca, Han Solo played by Harrison Ford, and Chewbacca played by the late Peter Mayhew, R.I.P. And they agree to pay Han $2,000 up front. They need safe passage to Alderaan. Initially, Han says $10,000 all in advance because Han owes $10,000 to Jabba the Hutt. Jabba the Hutt, who one of the crime lords of Tatooine, one of the crime lords of Tatooine, who we see in later films. And initially, he says $10,000 all in advance. Obi-Wan is able to kind of haggle him to, we can pay you $2,000 now up front, and $15,000 when we get to Alderaan. So in total, Han Solo gets paid $17,000 in the long run. So a little bit of a delayed gratification. So they agree. Han agrees, and they go to docking bay 94. And then, of course, the Imperials go looking for Obi-Wan and Luke. Luke had to sell a speeder. Luke says, I'm never coming back here, ever. They get to docking bay 94, and get to docking bay 94. They aboard every Star Wars fan's favorite ship, the Millennium Falcon, that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. Not 14, it was 12. Made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. They board the Millennium Falcon. They get out of there just in the nick of time, just as the Imperials show up to docking bay 94, and they're attacking Han and Luke and Obi-Wan, and then they fly off. Han says, "Chewie, get us out of here." They fly off, and we see for the first time the Millennium Falcon hit light speed and go into hyperspace. You see the Millennium Falcon go into hyperspace, And then on their way, en route to Alderaan, we do see Luke training with his father's lightsaber against a remote control, I guess like a robot, like a tiny ball that kind of shoots lasers at him. So he's blocking it first as he can see it, and then puts his helmet on, and then the blast shield is down, so now he can't see, and he has to reach out with his feelings, as Obi-Wan says, and use the Force, and he's able to actually block the shots from this test robot. Actually able to block the shots successfully. And although Han kind of writes it off, he says the Force isn't real and everything. Meanwhile, on the Imperial Star Destroyer with Princess Leia, who has been captured by Darth Vader, captured by the Imperials, they demand that she give up the location of the rebel base. And initially she says Dantooine, which I'm not sure if that's the same planet as Tatooine. Diehard, Star Wars fans, Star Wars canonists, feel free to comment down below. Just have at it in the comments. That's what they're there for. Whether you're listening to this on a podcasting app or you're listening to this on YouTube, have at it in the comments. You have my permission. And instead, they attack Alderaan. Alderaan, which is where Leia's family is, and so planet Alderaan is completely destroyed. Obi-Wan on the Falcon, he kind of feels a disturbance in the Force, and he sits down and he says how feel a disturbance in the Force as if millions of voices cried out in agony, cried out in fear, and then were suddenly silenced. So yeah, Alderaan is no more. Coming out of hyperspace, they reach Alderaan, and they realize that there's no planet. And then they find the Death Star. They get pulled in by the tractor beam, and then once they get pulled in by the tractor beam, and then the ship gets boarded by Imperials, Han is able to hide in the floorboards of the ship that he uses for smuggling. Hide in the floorboards, and then they're able to beat up some Imperials, and then and then we've got Han and Luke as dressed up as stormtroopers, along with Chewie and Obi-Wan, and they make their way onto the station, and they end up hiding in either a control room or some sort of office space. They close the door, and then Luke realizes that Leia is scheduled to be terminated and that she is on the detention level, and Han says, I'm not going anywhere, I'm not walking into the line of fire, I've done more than I've bargained for on this trip anyway, so Han just is very cynical, mercenary, I just want my money, and Luke convinces him, he's like, hey, she's rich, if you rescue her, the reward will be beyond your wildest dreams, and so they go to the detention level, they rescue the princess, but then they end up getting cut off by the Imperials, so they end up having to hide in a trash compactor. Trash compactor, again, another one of my favorite scenes from this movie. And as the walls start to close, and the walls start to close because it's a trash compactor, so they're about to get compacted, Luke gets pulled under by whatever animal that was, and then he gets pulled under, and then he ends up getting saved by Han, and the animal just kind of went away or whatever. C-3PO shuts down the garbage smashers, they escape, and then probably one of the best Han Solo moments, well, two best Han Solo moments in the movie. Okay, I'm going to say it here and now. Han shot first. Han shot first. I don't care what the 2004 digitally remastered version, or the 1997 20th anniversary edition have to say. Han shot first. I'm just going to say it now, point blank. But that's not where we're at in the movie. Han is the group is met by a small group of Imperial soldiers, and then Han kind of kills one, and then he chases after this other small group of soldiers. He's all and then in this clearing, it's all of a sudden there's the entire battalion. So then he has to run back, and Obi-Wan faces off against Darth Vader. Darth Vader, who is his former student, facing off against his former student, and really Obi-Wan was buying the rest of them time, giving them a chance to escape. So as Obi-Wan is fighting Vader, and the rest of the stormtroopers are watching, are kind of stopping and watching the fight. Obi-Wan, he stops, he even looks at Luke, closes his eyes, and then just kind of accepts defeat. And Vader defeats Obi-Wan, so R.I.P. Obi-Wan. And then Luke screams, no! And then that alerts the stormtroopers, and then Luke is just killing every single stormtrooper that he sees, and and then meanwhile Han and Leia are telling him Luke, it's too late, we gotta go, come on. And then Obi-Wan, as a Force ghost, says, run, Luke, run. So then Obi-Wan even tells him to run. They all board the Millennium Falcon, and they are headed off to the Rebel base on Yavin 4. Yavin 4, which is one of the moons of the Yavin system. So, after a brief space battle on the Millennium Falcon, they reach Yavin 4. They get the technical readout of the Death Star plans, and they realize that one fighter has to fire torpedoes down a tiny exhaust port, and in order to explode the Death Star and to save the rebellion. After receiving his reward, Han pretty much pieces out, takes his reward and then leaves. And then Luke has officially joined the Rebel Alliance. He joins the mission joins the Battle of Yavin, as it's officially known in the Star Wars canon. The battle to destroy the Death Star and to save the rebellion, as the Death Star as the Imperials have put a tracking beacon on the Millennium Falcon, which brought the Death Star to the Rebel base. So now the Rebels have come to arms, and they are, all of them, fighting to save the rebellion and to blow up the Death Star. So we get a great final action sequence, and just when it seems as if all hope is lost, if there's throughout the battle, the Rebel pilots are dropping like flies. They're each getting taken out by the TIE fighters, and one after the other. And then just when it seems like all hope is lost, Han shows up and he evens the odds. Han finally comes back. He evens the odds, and then he tells Luke, "You're all clear, kid. Let's blow this thing up and go home." So Luke is able to successfully blow up the Death Star, and the day is saved. They fly back to the base. Fly back to the base, and Han says, "I wasn't going to let you take all the credit, and I wasn't going to let you take all the credit and take all the reward or something." Leia says, "I knew there was more to you than just money." They get to work on repairing R2-D2, and the very last scene of the movie, we see an awards ceremony where Han and Luke are given medals for their efforts in defeating the Death Star. Chewie did not receive a medal. Again, Star Wars fans, please explain this. Diehard Star Wars fans, please explain this to me. Those who actually know the canon. Is there a canonical reason why Chewie did not receive a medal? And final shot of the movie. There's a nice little fanfare. We get a nice shot of Han, Luke, Leia, and Chewie all standing on a stage before all of the pilots and officers and fighters in the Rebel Alliance. They are now honored as heroes for their actions in destroying the Death Star. And the credits roll, and that is the first Star Wars movie. So this movie deals with some pretty interesting themes. This movie deals with the themes of heroism, being a hero, Luke realizing that his calling is out there in the stars and that he has a bigger part to play in the fight between good and evil. So good versus evil, as well as heroism, being a hero. I'd say that applies to Han as well. Han, he starts out as kind of just a mercenary, getting paid initially to just fly Obi-Wan and Luke to Alderaan initially. But then he has a change of heart, and he was actually ready to leave, but then he has a change of heart and finally joins the fight properly at the 11th hour, albeit at the 11th hour, but he does join the fight and even the odds. So themes of heroism, themes of finding, I don't want to say your purpose, but being able to follow your heart's calling. Following whatever that calling is that you have in life. If you feel as if you could be doing more, you feel as if your place is somewhere else, that you could be contributing more to the world, then you should. And I think that these feel-good movies like Star Wars, sure, it's the fun of getting to watch and rewatch these movies, and I do love watching and rewatching these movies, but one of the themes of Star Wars is, of course, good versus evil, as well as heroism, The ability to fight for what you believe in, fight for what is right, regardless of what anybody else tells you. Stand up for what you believe in, even if it means standing by yourself, even if it means standing alone. So I think that definitely rings true with George Lucas, Star Wars. Episode 4, A New Hope, and we know that the story does not end here. That there's a ton of sequels and prequels, okay, like other Star Wars movies. Really, this was the movie that started the vast Star Wars universe that we all know and love today. Without A New Hope, initially it wasn't even billed as A New Hope. It was just called Star Wars. Initially it didn't even have a number. It was just called Star Wars. If not for Star Wars, there would be no Star Wars universe. There would be no prequel trilogy. There would be no sequel trilogy. There would be no Star Wars animation. The Star Wars that I kind of grew up with, I can kind of remember, I was maybe about 4. I saw Revenge of the Sith in theaters. 2005. Yeah, I think I saw kind of remember seeing Revenge of the Sith in theaters. And then I remember as early as probably 3rd grade, either 2nd or 3rd grade, 2008, the Star Wars, the Clone Wars series on Cartoon Network. I remember playing the Lego games. I had Lego Star Wars, I think 1 and 2. I definitely played Lego Star Wars 3, the Clone Wars. Lego Star Wars, it was just so fun. Lego Star Wars. I remember, I think I had Star Wars The Force Unleashed. I remember Star Wars Rebels. I remember how excited I was, even December 2014. Well, before that, October 2013, George Lucas signed over Lucasfilm to Disney, and it was announced that they were working on a 7th Star Wars movie. I remember how excited I was for that. I'm sure some of you, those of you who watch Parks and Recreation, you'll remember the filibuster that Patton Oswalt did back in 2013, that full-length filibuster where he predicted that Boba Fett was alive. Yes. And then kind of, I guess, the new generation of Star Wars. We have The Force Awakens, which I saw in theaters. Loved it. I would say maybe Force Awakens is probably the best of the trilogy. I think Force Awakens was the best. Rogue One, the Star Wars story, loved that. Solid standalone film, solid movie. Last Jedi, one of the most divisive Star Wars movies. I'm not even gonna go there. Solo, Star Wars story, saw it in theaters. Fun movie. I was coming out of high school when that movie came out. Yeah, it was, Donald Glover did his thing as Donald Glover, Woody Harrelson. Everyone was pretty solid in that movie. Rise of Skywalker, last movie I saw before COVID. So that's kind of my generation's Star Wars. I guess Gen Z, that's kind of our Star Wars. But I think we should also acknowledge that our generation's Star Wars wouldn't exist. Oh, and then also Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Andor, Ahsoka, Star Wars Visions, all the content on Disney Plus, Bad Batch. That's my generation's Star Wars. And there'll be a time, I'm sure, 15, 20, 30 years from now, where Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, that's considered nostalgia. Nods to our generation's Star Wars that we had growing up. That will be considered nostalgia. Just like how I'm sure some of you listening that are maybe a bit older, who probably remember seeing, Star Wars in theaters in 1977. So I for sure want to hear from you all, anybody who was alive and saw it in theaters. But this movie was just so impactful because it gave us the Star Wars, this fandom that we all know and love today. So It all started with Star Wars. I'd say this movie earns its spot on the AFI's Top 100. On to Star Wars Plus.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding. From the words I spit, so sharp, so freezing. So cold, behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in ceilings. I just need a taste in my mind.
So kicking off Star Wars Plus with, of course, the awards. The Academy Awards. Star Wars was nominated, Gary Kurtz was nominated for Best Picture at the 1978 Academy Awards. Alec Guinness was nominated for Best Actor in a Supporting Role. George Lucas was nominated for Best Director, as well as Best Writing, Screenplay written directly for the screen. John Barry, Norman Reynolds, Leslie Dilley, and Roger Christian won Best Art Direction Set Decoration. John Molo won Best Costume Design. Don McDougall, Ray West, Bob Minkler, and Derek Ball won Best Sound. Derek Bell was not present at the award ceremony, unfortunately. Paul Hirsch, Marcia Lucas, and Richard Chew won Best Film Editing. John Steers, John Dykstra, Richard Edlund, Grant McCune, and Robert Blalock won Best Effects, Visual Effects. Of course, John Williams won Best Music, Original Score. I mean, that man has scored so many movies. Ben Burt as Benjamin Burt Jr. won a Special Achievement Award for sound effects for the creation of the alien creature and robot voices. Okay, and that's just the 1978 Academy Awards, just the 1978 Oscars. I mean, shoot, and that was already a lot of wins and nominations. So, Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films USA. In 2012, Star Wars was nominated for the Saturn Award for Best DVD Collection. As part of the collection, Star Wars: The Complete Saga. This movie, along with Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, and Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. That was 2012. In 2005, Star Wars won Best DVD Collection as part of the Star Wars Trilogy. This award was shared with Episodes 5 and 6. 1997 won a special award for its 20th anniversary. 20th anniversary. 1978, Star Wars won the Saturn Award for Best Science Fiction Film. And also in 78, Harrison Ford was nominated for Best Actor at the Saturn Awards. American Cinema Editors USA. 1978, Richard Chew, Paul Hirsch, Marcia Lewis were nominated for Best Edited Feature Film. BAFTA Awards. 1979, John Molo was nominated for Best Costume Design. And Star Wars was nominated for Best Film. Paul Hirsch, Marcia Lewis, Richard Chew nominated for Best Film Editing. John Barry was nominated for Best Production Design / Art Direction. Sam Shaw, Robert R. Rutledge, apologize in advance if I mispronounce any of these names. Gordon Davidson, Gene Corso, Derek Ball, Don McDougall, Bob Minkler, Ray West, Michael Minkler, Les Frischaltz, Richard Portman, and Ben Burt were all won the BAFTA for Best Sound at the 1979 BAFTA Film Awards. British Society of Cinematographers. Gilbert Taylor was nominated for Best Cinematography Award at the 1977 British Society of Cinematographers Award. The DGA, Directors Guild of America. George Lucas was nominated for the DGA Award for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Motion Pictures. Evening Standard British Film Awards. George Lucas was nominated in 1979. George Lucas won Best Film at the Evening Standard British Film Awards. And Alec Guinness won Best Actor at the same award ceremony. Golden Globes. The 1978 Golden Globes. Star Wars was nominated for Best Motion Picture Drama. George Lucas was nominated for Best Director of a Motion Picture. Alec Guinness was nominated for Best Actor in a Supporting Role Motion Picture. John Williams won, again, Best Original Score Motion Picture. Big shout out to John Williams. Can't wait to have you on Cobbs Corner. Satellite Awards, 2011. Star Wars won Best DVD Extras for Star Wars The Complete Saga. So this was shared with Star Wars Episodes 1 through 6. 2011 Satellite Awards. 2005, Star Wars won Best Overall DVD for the Star Wars Trilogy, which it shared with Episodes 5 and 6. Nominated for Best Overall DVD, my bad. In 2005, they were also nominated for Best Classic DVD for the Star Wars Trilogy. Golden Screen Germany. Guten Tag. Guten Tag or Guten Abend to my listeners in Deutschland. Deutschland, yep, Germany, yep. Golden Screen Deutschland. Star Wars won the 1978 Golden Screen Award. One Golden Screen. The Grammy Awards, 1992. John Williams was nominated for Best Pop Instrumental Performance for the Star Wars Trilogy. And in 1978, Williams won the Grammy for Best Album of Original Score Written for a Motion Picture or Television Special. That same year, he won Best Instrumental Composition for the main title for Star Wars, artist John Williams. He also won the Grammy for Best Pop Instrumental Performance, music arranged and conducted by John Williams. And lastly, John Williams was nominated for Album of the Year for the London Symphony Orchestra from the album Star Wars Original Motion Picture Soundtrack. The Ho Chi Film Awards. Not sure where that is located. Not sure where, the Ho Chi Film Awards. George Lucas won the Ho Chi Film Award for Best Foreign Language Film. Okay. Best Foreign Language Film. I wonder, is Ho Chi Film Awards probably outside the United States? Probably a non-English award ceremony, so Best Foreign Language Film. So for them, English would be foreign language. So. He also won Hugo Awards. George Lucas won Best Dramatic Presentation at the 1978 Hugo Awards for his director and screenplay. Awards of the Japanese Academy. Konnichiwa to my listeners in Japan. Listeners in Japan, I'm telling you, I gotta review Bullet Train or something. Ooh, man, just wait till we get to the top 100 non-English movies, man. It's gonna be a lot of shout-outs. To my listeners outside the United States and outside of Micronesia. Star Wars was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film at the 1979 Awards of the Japanese Academy. Los Angeles, the LAFCA Awards, Los Angeles Film Critics Association Awards. Star Wars won Best Picture in 1977. And John Williams, of course, won Best Music. Big shout out to John Williams. Cannot wait to have you on podcast. Big shout out to John Williams and George Lucas. Cannot wait to have you guys here on Cobbs Corner. It's going to be a blast. 1997 MTV Movie and TV Awards, Star Wars won the Lifetime Achievement Award for the Star Wars trilogy, also including, at that time, episodes 5 and 6. Chewbacca had been played by Peter Mayhew, R.I.P. So I'm wondering, did Peter Mayhew get the award? Okay. National Board of Review USA, 1977 NBR Awards. Star Wars was nominated for top 10 films. So it was put in the top 10, I guess top 10 greatest films of all time, even though AFI puts it at like number 12, 13? Number 13, yeah. National Film Preservation Board in 1989 put Star Wars on the National Film Registry. People's Choice Awards, 1978, Star Wars won Favorite Motion Picture at the People's Choice Awards. Photoplay Awards, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford were nominated for the gold medal for favorite movie. Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America in 1978, Star Wars won the Special Award. WGA, shout out to my listeners, any of you that are part of the WGA, congratulations on reaching that tentative deal as you pretty much shut down Hollywood over the summer. Shout out to anybody who's a part of SAG-AFTRA, who's a part of the WGA. We appreciate the work that you do. 1978 WGA Awards. George Lucas was nominated for Best Comedy Written Directly for the Screen. 2012 Golden Trailer Awards. Star Wars was nominated for the Most Innovative Advertising for a Brand/Product for Star Wars The Complete Saga, Every Moment. This was, of course, shared with the original 6 Star Wars movies. Kinema Junpo Awards. Not sure what language that is. George Lucas won Best Foreign Language Film Director at the 1979 Kinema Junpo Awards. 2005 DVD Exclusive Awards. Star Wars won Best Menu Design, or Van Ling won Best Menu Design for the Star Wars trilogy. And Jim Ward won Best Overall DVD Classic Film for, again, Star Wars Trilogy. At the 2020 Webby Awards, Star Wars won the Webby Award for Social, Television, and Film. At the IGN Summer Movie Awards in 2011, Star Wars won Best Movie Blu-ray for Star Wars The Complete Saga, episodes 1 through 6 on Blu-ray. I actually have Star Wars The Complete Saga, episodes 1 through 6 on Blu-ray, actually. I actually happen to own episodes 1 through 6. What was The Complete Saga at the time? That's actually how I had watched, not the first time I watched Star Wars. First time I watched Star Wars was a Blockbuster DVD. Shout out to anybody who gets that reference. Anyone who remembers Blockbuster. It's a Blockbuster DVD, and then again on Blu-ray. The first time I watched Empire Strikes Back was on Blu-ray. Yeah. Star Wars won Best Movie Blu-ray won the IGN People's Choice Award for Best Movie Blu-ray, or again Star Wars The Complete Saga on Blu-ray. 2007 Jules Verne Awards. George Lucas won the Jules Verne Legendaire Award. Turkish Film Critics Association, SIAD Award. Shout out to my listeners in Turkey. 1980 Star Wars got 8th place. It came in 8th place for Best Foreign Film. It was nominated for the SIAD Award. OFTA's, Online Film and Television Association Awards 2023. Alec Guinness won the OFTA Film Hall of Fame for his portrayal of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Alec Guinness, R.I.P. In 2022, so just 2 years ago, Carrie Fisher won OFTA Film Hall of Fame for her portrayal as Princess Leia Organa. 2021, James Earl Jones and David Prowse were also inducted into the OFTA Film Hall of Fame as Darth Vader. The award for David Prowse was given posthumously. 2021, Harrison Ford was inducted into the Opta Hall of Fame for his portrayal of Han Solo. That same year, Mark Hamill was inducted into the Hall of Fame for his portrayal of Luke Skywalker. Guinness World Record Award, 2016, George Lucas won the Guinness World Record for most successful book series based on a film series. Lucas Licensing has recorded more than 100 million sales of Star Wars related books, with over 850 novelizations, original novels, reference books, children's books, and role-playing supplements, including 80 New York Times bestsellers. The first original novel based on Star Wars characters was Splinter of the Mind's Eye, 1978, written by Alan Dean Foster, USA. That is a Guinness World Record. That is a lifetime achievement. Whew, man, that is a lot. My goodness, over 850 novelizations? Wow, that actually sounds about right. Because I know, again, Star Wars canon, there's just so much. You could just get lost in like the canon. There's just so much like content out there. In 2015, George Lucas won the Guinness World Record for highest box office gross for a screenwriter. This includes not just Star Wars, but also episodes 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, along with Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Highest box office gross for a screenwriter, yep. Sounds about right. In 2013, Lucas won highest box office film gross average for a male director. This was Star Wars along with T-838, which I want to say was his very first movie that he made. He might have been in film school at the time, I'm not entirely sure. As well as American Graffiti and, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. So, 2013. 2012, Lucas won the Guinness World Record for most prolific video game series based on a licensed property. As of April 2012, a total of 279 Star Wars video games have been released across 41 different platforms. Wow. I had no idea that it was that many. 279 Star Wars video games. Shout out to all my gamers out there. Shout out to Lights Camera Rant. It's a lot. Last Guinness World Record. In 2011, George Lucas won the Guinness World Record for largest fortune made from a film franchise. Yep. Sounds about right. Golden Schmoes Awards. I can't believe that we're still on awards, guys. This might be the longest award section I've ever done. 2011, Star Wars was nominated for Best DVD Blu-ray of the Year for the complete saga, shared with episodes 1 through 6. In 2004, Star Wars was nominated for Best DVD Blu-ray of the Year at the Golden Schmoes Award for the trilogy, episodes 4, 5, and 6. The Gold Spirit Awards. John Williams won Best Composer at the 2004 Gold Spirit Awards for Star Wars Trilogy, done by Sony, tied with Elmer Bernstein for The Great Escape in 1963 in third place, shared, of course, with Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. 1978 American Music Awards. Star Wars was nominated for Favorite Pop Rock Album for the soundtrack to the film. Thank God that is the last award. Finally, on to the trivia. George Lucas was so sure this movie would flop that instead of attending the premiere, he went on vacation to Hawaii with his good friend Steven Spielberg. It was on that vacation that they came up with the idea for Raiders of the Lost Ark. Wow. Check out the documentary Empire of Dreams, guys. It's a documentary from 2004. It's on Disney Plus, and it talks about George Lucas and his time, like doing pretty much creating the original trilogy of Star Wars. But yeah, I mean, that just, I guess that goes to show the amount of confidence that Lucas had. Whew, man, I'm pretty sure Lucas probably regrets that to this day. Talking about some this Star Wars movie, it's gonna flop at the box office. I'm going on vacation. James Earl Jones and David Prowse, who play the voice and body of Darth Vader, respectively, never met. Wow, they never met. Oh, okay. Movie magic. In early drafts of the script, R2-D2 could speak standard English, and he had a rather foul vocabulary. Although all of R2's English speech was removed, many of C-3PO's reactions to it were left in. I kind of picked up on that. Now that they mentioned that, I've seen this movie a ton of times, but now that that's mentioned, kind of picking up on that. George Lucas's decision to accept a lower salary on the movie in exchange for full merchandising rights was considered a fool's gamble on his part. Although some movie toy combinations had done moderate retail results at the time, they had never been major money earners because of the long gap between when a movie would go through its theatrical run and when any products based on it would be available. This movie, however, was such a phenomenon that it reached the holiday 1977 sales period in full swing, and Harrison changed the whole... Oh, my bad. I started reading the next bit of trivia. My bad, guys. And changed the way how movies were merchandised forever. Yep. Shout out to George Lucas. He was very ahead of his time, in that regard. Very forward thinking. Harrison Ford didn't learn his lines for the intercom conversation in the cell block so that it would sound spontaneous. Yeah, I think that kind of I might have picked up on that a bit. Cameo: Robert Clark, the white mustached admiral in the Death Star conference room, was later given the name Wolf Yularen and developed as a character in other media such as Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Okay, wow. All right, so they actually have all these side characters so they then get to further develop in other properties. It's the thing I like about the original trilogy is we kind of see things. We're kind of introduced to this universe, but kind of in the middle of an already ongoing narrative and an ongoing kind of story. Kind of leaves you on the edge of your seat. And then that's what leaves room for universe expansion and character development. On to some goofs. Continuity. When Luke is practicing with the lightsaber in the Millennium Falcon, his lightsaber blade is a very pale green. He turns it off to talk to Ben, and when he turns it back on, it is back to its proper light blue. This mistake is only in the 2004 DVD release. I think that mistake might also be, if you watch this movie on Disney Plus, which is what I did, I think that mistake's still in the movie. I think the Disney Plus stream version is based on the 2004 digitally remastered version, so kind of picked up on that. In the first shot of the Millennium Falcon, the ship is missing its radar dish. Hey, it's missing the radar dish. I mean, we know all about the radar dish from Return of the Jedi, right? The windows of the TIE Fighter are shaped differently when viewed from the inside and the outside. I literally never picked up on that. I never, ever picked up on that. I thought they were hexagonal. I thought they were hexagonal. I thought they were hexagons. Or octagons. I don't know. I teach algebra 2, not geometry. Okay, I don't know shapes. C-3PO sustains a dent on his head during the Sand People attack, but the dent appears, disappears, and swaps sides frequently during the movie. I kind of picked up on that a bit. Just when I was rewatching this movie for this review, I did kind of notice that. Let me know in the comments if you noticed. As Luke prepares to board his fighter prior to the climactic space battle, he brushes his hand along the underside of the wing. The markings on the wing clearly indicate it is Red 1, shown by the one red stripe. However, during the battle, it is repeatedly established that Luke is in fact Red 5, and exterior shots of the spacecraft model have 5 red stripes. This is corrected in the special edition by adding the scene of Luke talking to Biggs. They start talking under Red 1 and continue to walk to Luke's spider. The scene was cut from the original. Okay, so they explain that in a deleted scene, we actually do see Luke go over to Red 5, and he's not actually Red 1. Okay. So that was, I guess, something they chose to omit from the final cut. Factual errors. While the escape pod falls from the Star Destroyer, both the ship and the star-spangled sky are zooming out. However, only the Star Destroyer should scale down, as the increase of the pod's distance to the stars is negligible. I just imagine I just imagine there's like some sort of like astrophysicist, like just pushing up their glasses, writing down these like factual errors. Like, okay. Dennis Lawson's name is misspelled Dennis in the credits and was not fixed in the 1997 special edition. Wow. Okay. I would have sued or something. Mr. Lawson. Spelled Denis, not Dennis. When the walls of the trash compactor converge, the level of trash should rise, but it lays low until the walls almost touch each other. I kind of noticed that. I have noticed that every time I've watched this movie. And, yeah, I guess now that you mention that, yeah, they're supposed to rise, but no, that doesn't happen. All the spacecraft in all the Star Wars movies do not follow the laws of physics for flight. They move through space like airplanes, which have resistance to allow them to make sweeping, arcing banks when turning. In outer space, this is not possible because there is no air to provide resistance for these turns. This is very, very true. I think Watch Mojo, they did like their top 10 like scientifically inaccurate movies, and I think one of their honorable mentions was Star Wars and how there's sound in space, and yeah, it's like they're just like pretty much flying through space as if they were flying through like regular like Earth's atmosphere, which is not accurate at all. So I've picked up on that for a while, especially being an engineer. That separation between reality and fiction. When Porkins is losing control of the ship after getting hit by enemy fire, Biggs tells him to eject right before the ship explodes. However, they are not wearing spacesuits, only a helmet, which is not even sealed to hold in some small remnant of air. If Porkins had ejected, he wouldn't have survived very long. Wouldn't have survived very long in the vacuum of space without oxygen. I picked up on that. I was gonna say, like, eject where? There's no air. Like Jordan Sparks and Chris Brown, no air. Thank you to the 5 people who got that reference. Incorrectly regarded as goofs. When Vader is in his TIE fighter in the Battle of Yavin, more than once you can see the eyes and eyebrows of David Prowse through the visor and Vader's mask. This is not an error because Darth Vader has fully functioning eyes, which could understandably be revealed through his mask. In this film, the lenses of Vader's masks are a deep red color, which is not visible through most of the film. Lighting requirements in this scene are likely what made the lenses more transparent. In the subsequent films, the lenses were probably changed to a black color to compensate. I picked up on that. I definitely picked up on us seeing Darth Vader's eyes and eyebrows. So yeah, that is something that I picked up on. That is not a goof. Yeah. And yeah, in subsequent films, they did change the lens color to black, just to kind of compensate. During the final Death Star battle, Red Leader says, "Stay there, I just lost my starboard engine," shortly before we see his fighter get hit. However, he may not have lost it due to a hit. It may have had a mechanical failure that just came at a really bad time. This is very true. It's a possibility. Considering what we now know from Star Wars 1 through 3, why doesn't Obi-Wan remember R2-D2 or C-3PO? We know C-3PO's memory was wiped, so he wouldn't remember Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan should remember R2-D2 and vice versa. However, there's no indication that he doesn't remember R2-D2. He only says that he doesn't remember owning a droid, which is actually true to some extent. See also the FAQ. See also the FAQ entry about this issue. Thank you, IMDb. Thank you. We love you over here at Cobbs Corner. We just love you. We love IMDb, guys. During the Death Star battle, you hear, "Red 6, can you see Red 5? And a voice seems to answer. This is after Tono Porkins, who is Red 6, has been destroyed. But there is a hectic space battle going on with tons of Rebel and Imperial ships, and as a result, tons of radio calls. The response was likely an irrelevant call that just happened to get picked up at an odd moment. C-3PO has been with Princess Leia's... Well, that is very true. C-3PO has been with Princess Leia's family since her childhood, according to his backstory established in later movies. During the skirmish at the beginning of the movie, C-3PO says to R2-D2, "There will be no escape for the princess this time." The script reads, "There will be no escape for the captain this time," foreshadowing the next scene where Vader strangles the captain. Later, C-3PO sees a picture of the princess and claims not to know who she is. It's likely that it was programmed not to divulge any important information that may endanger the mission of the princess, and the radio adaptation strongly implies this. Okay. Reveal some mistakes. Vader kills Captain Ramus Antilles and throws his body into a wall. The quote-unquote dead man puts his hands out to protect himself from the impact. I picked up on that. Yeah. The arm of the crane supporting the floating torture device is visible for a second or two when it enters Leia's cell. The needle on the device bears the letters British made. British made. Wow. Shout out to my listeners in the UK. My listeners cross pond. Yes. Shout out to my listeners in the United Kingdom. Yep. When R2 is being picked up by the Jawas after he is stunned and has fallen onto his face, a Jawa sleeve pulls up, revealing a portion of the actor's bare forearm. Wow. I think I saw that. Yeah. Y'all might have wanted to edit that out or something back in 2004. Special edition. On the morning after R2's escape, the image fades up to reveal the deserted courtyard of the homestead. Uncle Owen is heard calling for Luke, who, as we find out a few seconds later, has already left with the land speeder in order to look for the missing droid. However, a close inspection of the courtyard shot reveals a ghost-like image of Luke in a doorway to the right. He seems frozen in mid-stride and has been slightly blended into the surrounding set, thereby turning somewhat transparent. This strange cameo is not featured in the original release. Okay, well apparently that's in the special edition. I don't remember ever seeing anything like that. So, if IMDb says it's a thing, then, fine. Sure. At the end of the movie, many of the gathering soldiers are plainly cardboard cutouts. Cardboard cutouts. You see, George Lucas, he used a lot of miniatures on this movie. They're plainly cardboard cutouts. Oh my goodness. Yeah, extras were expensive back then. George Lucas, he didn't have a whole lot of the money to be able to afford extras and that sort of thing. So, check out Empire of Dreams, guys. Definitely. Check out the Empire of Dreams documentary. Let me know what you think. Miscellaneous. For the 1997 special edition and all subsequent re-edits of the film, George Lucas famously altered the scene where Han Solo is confronted by Greedo to make it appear as though Greedo shoots first, thereby making Han's shot an act of self-defense rather than appearing to sneakily murder Greedo. However, this alteration is in conflict with the dialogue in the scene. It is established by Greedo's dialogue that he intends to capture Han and take him alive to Jabba the Hutt. So Han's act of shooting Greedo, as originally established in the 1977 version, was purposely intended to be a sneak attack, not an act of self-defense. This fact is also established by the re-edited scene of Han confronting Jabba in the hangar when Jabba complains about Han shooting Greedo, and Han countering that if Jabba wants him, he shouldn't send his underlings to get him. I said it earlier in the episode. Han shot first. Han shot first, not Greedo. Yeah. So. It's honestly kind of painful to watch that movie, because I feel like Disney Plus, they also edited it even further. They've edited that scene even more than Harrison Ford did in 97. So, I don't even know. It's at Cobbs Corner, we believe that Han shot first, not Greedo. So, yeah. Moving along. When fleeing the Death Star in the Falcon, Han and Luke climb into gun turrets. Han climbs upward to one and Luke climbs downward. When reaching their turrets, they sit down as if they were back-to-back on a lateral plane. This would mean Luke would be facing downwards when strapping into the chair and possibly falling off of it. From the way the guns are positioned from the inside of the gun turret, Han would only be able to hit ships directly above the Falcon, and Luke would only be able to hit ships directly below the Falcon. Any TIE fighters approaching from either sides, in front or behind the Falcon, would be safe from their fire. I kind of picked up on that a bit, but I also realized that like they're constantly like moving around in that like little fishbowl, so anything's possible. The red team is checking off. They called out their numbers as standing by in a completely haphazard order. They should have called out red 1 standing by, red 2 standing by in numerical order. And it's completely unbelievable that at least 1, 2 of them weren't trying to talk at the same time. That's very, very true. Very, very true. They really should have. I tell you, Red Squadron, you gotta tighten up. Tighten up. Tighten up. Throughout most of the film, the lightsaber is shown to slowly ignite for dramatic purposes, generally at standoffs. However, for a Jedi's primary weapon for defense and using light, it should in reality always ignite instantly, as evident in the Mos Eisley Canteen scene and earlier prequels. Maybe there was a software update for the lightsabers. Or software down date, where it gets worse instead of better. Yeah. Making the thing. Downgrade. Software downgrade. Down date. Yes. It's a downgrade. During the duel between Obi-Wan and Vader, Obi-Wan twice refers to Vader as Darth, like that was his first name. However, who's to say Jedi can't yell out Sith Lords by their title? Okay. All right. On to the AV Unsynchronized. In the cantina, when Dr. Evazan says to Luke, he doesn't like you, and I don't like you either, his mouth doesn't match both lines. Honestly, I don't even think his mouth was moving in that scene. When Darth Vader says to Tarkin, I told you she never consciously betrayed the rebellion, he then continues to gesture as if still talking. True. Just before Alderaan is destroyed, Governor Tarkin asks the princess, you would prefer another target, a military target, then name the system. In the reaction shot of the princess, you can see Tarkin's mouth moving, but there is no sound. It was the 70s. Back in the hangar bay on Yavin, after the destruction of the Death Star, as Luke, Han, and Leia are jubilant, C-3PO rushes to the side of Luke's X-Wing. Anthony Daniels, in costume, saying, "Oh my, R2," in the audio track. Shortly thereafter, C-3PO's proper "Oh my, R2," replete with robotic audio effects is heard. When Luke, Ben, and the droids first enter... Okay, so that's... Right, audio messed up and... Okay, so shortly thereafter, like, C-3PO's his proper, "Oh my, R2." Wow, okay. So, you gotta sync up your audio, guys. Sync up the audio. Or IMDb will catch you. When Luke, Ben, and the droids first enter the cantina and Wooer, the bartender, yells, "Hey, we don't serve their kind here," his voice does not match his lips. His voice does not match his lips. There's a lot of that going around, especially in these older movies. Yeah. Crew or equipment visible. When 3PO is arguing with R2-D2 about which direction they should walk, the camera and the dolly track are reflected in 3PO's helmet. I might have peeped that. Yeah. Part of Kenny Baker's face visible through R2-D2's eyes in the Sandcrawler. Okay. Didn't pick up on that, but I'm sure it's there. When the Falcon is on approach to the Death Star's docking bay, you can see the support prop under the vehicle. This was not corrected on the DVD releases. I might have picked up on that. When Han Solo is arguing with Jabba the Hutt, Jabba yells, "Come on," and jerks to the left. As he jerks, we see dark crescent moon object. Declan Mulholland's head not fully covered by the animated figure of Jabba that was superimposed later. Since Jabba was reanimated for the 2004 DVD release, this is the only time it is seen. Wow. Because I don't remember seeing any human heads. I remember like just the reanimated. Jabba the Hutt. When Han is going to the Falcon, you can see the shadow of a crew member walk to it. Might have seen that. Yeah. Again, the crew members, y'all got to tighten up. That's gonna be like the new name of this podcast. It's just the Tighten Up Podcast. Yeah. We're gonna point out who needs to tighten up, who needs to get their act together. Tighten up here at Cobbs Corner. TV, film, pop culture, and tighten up. Plot holes. Luke and Han steal the Stormtroopers' outfits, which fit surprisingly well, and change on board the Falcon. But after escaping the trash compactor, they change back into their regular clothes, belts, boots, weapons, and all before they make it to the ship. How did they get their clothes back? Also, how did Luke wash and dry his hair after going underwater in the compactor? They never explained that. You know. I guess we'll never know. George Lucas, if you're listening, I'm going to be asking you all these plot holes when you come to Cobb's Corner, all right? Mr. Lucas, anybody from Lucasfilm, I'd like a job. When the Death Star workers, two regular clothes, two stormtroopers board the Millennium Falcon, they were most likely killed, indicated by the blaster and lightsaber sounds heard in the background. It's never explained what was done with the bodies after they escaped. Also, there's no way Han and Luke would have changed from what they were wearing into the Stormtrooper outfits so quickly. These are all valid facts. Given the knowledge of the technology in the story, when Star Destroyers are chasing smaller ships, ducking into the atmosphere of a planet and making dramatic turns would be logical escape navigator patterns. The larger Star Destroyers can't travel in an atmosphere, and in outer space, they cannot turn quickly. Very, very true. Very, science-based. Loving the science-based thought in these plot holes. When the Death Star approaches Yavin Prime, it goes into orbit until it can get a clear shot at the moon with the Rebel base. This allows the Rebellion time to attack and destroy the Death Star. The Death Star could simply have blasted the planet, and if debris didn't destroy the moon, it could have then blasted the moon to destroy the Rebel base. I never thought of that. I actually never even thought of that. So, I'm learning so much. Character errors. When C-3PO and R2-D2 are in the control room of the Death Star, the stormtroopers barge in and one hits his head on the door. The goof was highlighted in the remastered version with a comedy donk sound effect. I picked up on that after the first 20 watches. As Luke cleans R2-D2, watch C-3PO in the background. When Luke jumps back, surprised by Princess Leia's message, C-3PO slips off the steps, but recovers in time not to ruin the shot. Yeah. In the music in the ending credits, a trumpet overblows and hits a wrong note. Okay, whoever did that, they probably John Williams, I would have fired them. I would have been like, nope, cut, we need to run it again, because Wilbur over here decided to, nope, because Roger over here, Roger the trumpeter decided to hit this wrong note, and now we got to do it all over again. So go home, Roger. If you got that reference, you're a real one. During the first trench run, a few seconds before Gold 5 is killed, Red Leader refers to him as Gold Leader. This may be intentional. Gold 5 reports to Red Leader, that Gold Squadron has lost 2 pilots, and one of whom was Gold Leader. This may be Red Leader acknowledging that Gold 5 is now the acting Gold Leader. Yeah, it makes sense. The next in command. And when C-3PO and R2-D2 depart in the escape pod, the gunners on the Star Destroyer who spot it remark, "There goes another one." And if several have been jettisoned back on board, back on board Leia's ship, however, the officer tells Darth Vader that only one was jettisoned. I picked up on that. I think CinemaSins brought that up. I think CinemaSins, they brought up like everything wrong with Star Wars: A New Hope. I think they brought that up. On to some quotes. Han answers the intercom after commandeering an action station. Circa an hour and 15 minutes and 22 seconds. Everything's under control, situation normal. Voice, what happened? We had a slight weapons malfunction, but everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you? We're setting up a squad. Negative. We have a reactor leak here now. Give us a few minutes to lock it down. Large leak, very dangerous. Who is this? What's your operating number? Boring conversation, everybody. Look, we're gonna have company! Yeah. Crazy credits. The film has no opening credits. Instead, the first credits scene at the end of the film are presented in the order in which they would have otherwise been shown at the start. Although by the late 1990s it was commonplace for films to not have opening credits, in 1977 it was somewhat unusual for a major film to not have opening credits. I tell you guys, going back to Empire of Dreams. Check out Empire of Dreams because, if I'm not mistaken, George Lucas got sued in 1978 by the WGA and the DGA. You see, the Directors Guild and the Writers Guild of America, they fund a lot of these big budget motion pictures. And George Lucas, he started that trend. He kind of made it a trend. Put all the credits at the very end of the movie. That was not commonplace. It definitely wasn't commonplace in the 1940s when I think Orson Welles did the same thing with Citizen Kane. Either Citizen Kane or Casablanca. Go back and listen to those episodes. But yeah, George Lucas, he really took a bullet for that. And now it's commonplace. Now it's the norm in 2024. Most movies don't have credits at the start. The film's opening prologue. It's a period of civil war. Rebels spaceships striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil Galactic Empire. During the battle, rebel spies managed to steal secret plans to the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet. Pursued by the Empire's sinister agents, Princess Leia races home aboard her starship, custodian of the stolen plans that can save her people and restore freedom to the galaxy. I want to put that on a poster, on a t-shirt. A t-shirt, just put it somewhere, like in my house as I'm walking down the steps. Just put that on the wall, make it visible. In my office. Yeah. When first released theatrically, prior to the film, a generic screen reading in green letters, a Lucasfilm Limited production appeared. In all versions from the special edition onward, this is replaced with a more elaborate Lucasfilm logo that shines and glows. Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, I'm used to the whole, the shiny Lucasfilm logo, shines and it glows. Yeah. That's what I'm used to. To compensate for the new special edition credits inserted in versions 1997 and beyond, a longer instrumental suite plays during the credits roll, integrating various themes from throughout the film. I ain't gonna hold you, I've never actually sat and watched the full credits of any Star Wars movie, so. Because there's no post-credit scenes, I was like, what's the point? I don't know. Generation gap. The Star Wars main theme leads in from the 20th Century Fox fanfare. This is very true. The 20th Anniversary Special Edition has a 1997 copyright date in the credits rather than a 1977 copyright date. I wonder, was this intentional? Was this an error? This was probably an error. Alternate versions. In the 1997 re-release, 2 of the Cantina aliens had werewolf heads have been replaced. One was replaced with a lizard-like creature, while the other was replaced by a creature with elephant tusks. Both the werewolves and their replacements can be seen in footage used in a supplemental DVD packaged with the soundtrack to Episode 3. I think I remember like the replacements, not the werewolf heads. Yeah. Because even the 1997 re-release is before my time, so yeah. On to some connections. This movie was edited into the 1982 film The Man Who Saved the World. Features footage from the movie and is basically a ripoff of the movie. Muppet Babies Gonzo's Video Show, TV episode 1984. Various clips of the movie were used for Gonzo's reenactment of the movie. G.I. Joe Lights Camera Cobra, TV episode 1985. When Shipwreck lands his Cobra hover bubble, the sound effects of Darth Vader's TIE Fighter, including Vader's classic breathing, are briefly heard. Muppet Babies Around the Nursery in 80 Days, TV episode 1986. A clip of Darth Vader was used from this movie. Quantum Leap, Revenge of the Evil Leaper, September 16th, 1987. The TV episode aired in 1993. Every time Thames recenters to a new position, the sound is the Stormtrooper's blaster. Wow. Yeah, that Stormtrooper blaster is, I feel like, overused. This movie was featured in The Making of Star Wars, a TV movie from 1997. The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, Charles Nelson Riley, Mark Hamill, Eugene Fedor, Dr. William A. Noel, TV episode from 1977. Mark Hamill introduces a clip from his movie on this episode of The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Okay, Johnny Carson, so I'm used to Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Yep, I'm used to Jimmy Fallon and Jay Leno before that, so 1977, this is before my time. Music and Gast. I think that's maybe German. Episode dated the 19th of December, 1977. TV episode 1977 with some clips from the movie shown. The Science Fiction Film Awards TV special 1978. Clips of the film are shown. And that same year, the 50th Annual Academy Awards, a 1978 TV special. The movie has been followed up with numerous sequels, namely Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back in 1980, Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, 1983, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, 1999, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, 2002, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, 2005, Episode 7, The Force Awakens, 2015, Episode 8, The Last Jedi, 2017, and as of the recording of this episode, the last official Star Wars sequel, official Star Wars episode, is Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. The movie was referenced in Captain Cool and the Kongs present ABC All-Star Saturday, a TV movie from 1977 in which a Star Wars production number is performed. Spécial Cinéma, I think that's French. Bonjour to my listeners in France. Episode dated the 20th of September 1977. TV episode from 1977. I guess Star Wars is discussed. Donnie and Marie, episode number 3.1. Star Wars skit features Donnie and Marie as Luke and Leia, Chris Christopherson as Han Solo, and Red Fox as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Wow. Whew, Red Fox, I know Red Fox. He was probably one of the earliest, most vulgar comedians in the 50s and 60s. I know him from Sanford and Son. Yeah, my grandmother used to always watch that show. Shout out to my grandmother, if you're listening. The Bob Newhart Show, Carlin's New Suit. Bob, Howard, Carlin, and Billy wait in line for the movie Star Wars. Family, Annie Laurie. The title is referenced. And then some references that are made in this movie. Metropolis, 1927. C-3PO is modeled on the robot from Metropolis. Triumph of the Will, 1935. Stormtroopers in Star Wars are based on Nazi stormtroopers in Triumph of the Will. I feel like I knew that. Alexander Nevsky, 1938. When Darth Vader first appears, he bends over the corpses of rebels like one of the Teutonic Knights after the storming of Pskov. Okay. Wizard of Oz, 1939. That movie is somewhere on the AFI's list. And Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe, 1940. The movie's been remade as Star Wars Uncut, a video from 2012. The Chain Reaction extended Not Quite Hollywood interviews from 2018, mentioned by Arna Marie Winchester. There's been a few spin-offs. The infamous Star Wars Holiday Special, TV movie from 1978, Star Wars The Video Game, 1983, Star Wars Jedi Arena, video game, 1983, The Ewok Adventure, TV movie from 1984, and Star Wars Droids, a TV series from 1985 to 86. The movie was spoofed in The Richard Pryor Show, episode 1.1. The opening sketch spoofs the cantina scene. Olsen, Bandon, Deruda. The gang members hidden in boxes on wheels behave like R2-D2, and one of them makes squeaky noises. The War in Space, Star Babe. Numerous aspects of Star Wars are spoofed in this adult feature. Hardware Wars. The whole film is a parody from character names, dialogue, and whole scenes. It's a short film from 1978. User review, 9 stars out of 10. One for all and all for one. An empire holds the universe to ransom while a princess seeks to liberate the hamstrung. With a force of daring rebels, revolutionists forged in peril, their fight for liberty and freedom has begun. On Tatooine, frustration blooms for Luke Skywalker. He's starting to become more Luke Sky Saunter, though 2 droids that he acquires conjure dreams that he aspires, bought from Jawas, peddling from their own sandcrawlers. After tracking down the hermit Obi-Wan, they catch a lift with Han Solo and soon are gone, with Chewbacca by their side to where Alderaan did reside, now reduced to rubble, shattered, scattered, gone. And the battle begins to save the universe from the dark side, Darth Vader, and the destruction of the Death Star. The destructive Death Star. Okay, this review is provided to us, again, via IMDb from X Stahl, probably a poet or a rapper, I guess. This review was provided April 4th, 2023. Shout out to X Stahl. You know who you are. Okay, so I mean, yeah, the user review is kind of summarized version of like the movie and nice little rhyme scheme. So it's alright. It's cool. I agree. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. Yeah, for sure. IMDb rating. This movie has an IMDb score of 8.6 out of 10 stars and a Letterboxd score of 4.2 out of 5 stars. I know I said 9 out of 10. Maybe I'll give this movie like an 8.7, only because I want to hear from you guys, like, is A New Hope better than Empire Strikes Back? Like, Empire Strikes Back is just... It's just Empire Strikes Back. The movie was released on May 25th, 1977 in the United States. Official websites, Disney Plus, Hotstar, and Lucasfilm Limited. The movie's in English. It is also known as La Guerra de las Estrellas. One of the filming locations was Tikal National Park in Guatemala, fourth moon of Yavin, filmed in Guatemala. I know that the Tatooine scenes were filmed in Tunisia, North Africa. Shout out to my listeners in Guatemala and Tunisia, Morocco, North Africa area. Big shout out to you all. Production companies were Lucasfilm and 20th Century Fox. Box office. This movie had an estimated budget of $11 million. Its gross in the US and Canada was over $460 million. almost $461 million. Its opening weekend, it made about $1.5 million. Its opening weekend, May 30th, 1977. Its gross worldwide was over $775 million worldwide. On Rotten, the Rotten Tomatoes score, tomato meter score, 93%, audience score, 96%. I'm maybe with the tomato meter score on this one, 93%, because again, A New Hope, it's not better than Empire Strikes Back. That's my opinion. I want to hear from you guys. Critics' consensus: a legendarily expansive and ambitious start to the sci-fi saga. George Lucas opened our eye to the possibilities of blockbuster filmmaking, and things have never been the same. Couldn't agree more. Where to watch? Watch Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope with a subscription on Disney+. You can also rent it on Amazon Prime Video or buy it on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, or Vudu. That is all for this episode's review of Star Wars. If you liked what you heard today, then do not forget to give us a review wherever you are listening from, and follow us on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and TikTok to stay updated on all things Cobbs Corner. All of that information is in the show notes below. If you made it to the end of this episode, I greatly appreciate it. Be sure to turn on those post notifications so you get notified when I post, and tune in to Talk Time with Morgan Cobbs on Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. Chuk Standard Time, live on YouTube, available everywhere else the next day. I hope that you guys enjoyed your stay here at Cobbs Corner, your one-stop shop for all things TV, film, and pop culture. I will talk to all of you in the next episode. Peace.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boys.